said, and I am a trainer for Opsgility and a couple other things. And I, like many people in the CRM world, I got my start kind of by accident, and that is as a CRM admin. I didn't mean to be an admin. I kind of fell into it. The company that I was working at adopted CRM. We were having trouble getting it off the ground and realized that there's probably a lot more that we could be doing with the product that we weren't. And so started investing in my learning. And from that, it actually turned into a very successful implementation for us. And we credit that back to the fact that we invested internally. And so we really knew what the product could do, which was incredible value. We knew what we wanted to do next. We knew what problems we had that could be solved by Dynamics. And that was really exciting. And so instead of leaning heavily on an outside resource, not only did we save a lot of time and money by doing it internally, but we also just had a clear vision of the future of what our software strategy would be. And that was a fantastic direction for us as a team. And so from there, I moved out of just being an administrator into more of a consulting role, and consulted in financial services and healthcare and several other industries. And now I work with Microsoft partners and customer organizations, and I work with them on training and configuration, documentation, and system design and oversight, whether that's what to do next in building out their system, working with existing systems, or even how to face other compliance pieces like how to deal with regulations and that kind of thing. I just absolutely love it. And then something that I just want to mention real quick, because it does involve Opsgility, the most rewarding part of 2017 for me so far has been partnering with Opsgility to grow a new group of CRM systems administrators and consultants. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And I know the folks at Opsgility are very passionate about too. And so we've been using this same Opsgility curriculum that we're going to talk about today, both the customization and configuration course and the getting started with CRM course, and using that to transition adults who are looking to make a career switch into the dynamic space and preparing them for that transition for rewarding careers in that field. So thank you so much to Opsgility for making that possible. It's so fun to see that curriculum through brand new people's eyes, every day, and it's just really incredibly rewarding personally for me and for the students as well. Let's move on and talk about what is the opportunity here. There's really a lot of opportunity in learning about Dynamics, which is something that I'm really passionate about. And something that I hear often is, well, does it really matter if I'm not going to be a consultant? And I would argue, yes, it does really matter for many reasons. It might be because you're entirely new to CRM, in which case you don't know what you don't know. And it can be very important to round out your skill set. What is even possible in the tool? What could you learn to do easily? What would really benefit your company but maybe is outside your skill set? And so it's something you still want to hire for. Maybe bring in an outside consultant or Microsoft partner, but you at least now know exists. Another group of people that are really good fits for a course like this are people on a stable CRM system, but they know they can do more. Maybe they initially built out CRM to help their sales team, but now they're thinking, there's really a lot more they could do with their social media strategy, or there's more they could be doing with marketing, or they really want to interconnect that relationship between their customer service center and their sales team. And so both sides can be aware of what's going on with clients. These are all organizations that would be a really good fit for taking a class like this. Another would be if you've upgraded. What we're seeing is there's a large percentage of CRM customers that stayed on 2011 for quite a long time. CRM 2011 on-premise is an incredibly popular version. And when CRM 2013 came out, many organizations weren't ready to make the jump. And there were so many new features that came, it was a little intimidating. And then right on the heels of that, we had CRM 2015 and then 2016, and now we have Dynamics 365. And many organizations just have not been able to keep up with that churn and the understanding of what's even possible now. And so in many cases, configuration scenarios that took extensive code to get done in earlier versions of CRM, like 2011, are now actually very simple and easy for a business user to do for the organization. So simple things that took considerable JavaScript or even C# to pull off is not something that we have to worry about anymore. And so it's important for an organization either looking to upgrade or recently upgraded to know what they have access to now and know how many of those tools really are very accessible and learnable, something that could be done in-house or at least be understood. And so even if you're having someone, an outside of Microsoft partner or maybe an outside consultant help build your CRM, it's still important to have knowledgeable resources in meetings. You want to have people who understand what the tool can do. You also don't know what you don't know. And so it's possible that you're over-designing for things that really don't need to be that complicated. Or there may be other systems or other great workarounds that you're doing, maybe manual processes on paper that don't need to be that complicated. The CRM can handle really well. And so becoming more aware of what your CRM is capable of can really boost the use of the tool and help you get more of the value out of it. You don't want to be leaving possibilities like that on the table. You want to have a knowledgeable team that knows how to use the resources that you're already paying for or plan to be taking on in the future. So we have 3 courses from Opsgility that you can use to grow your understanding here, and they're targeted at slightly different audiences. So the first is the Getting Started with Dynamics CRM, and this is geared towards someone who's looking to use Dynamics CRM in a very traditional sales, marketing, or service sense. So it's looking at the ways that Dynamics is set up to very specifically help. For example, in a sales scenario, setting up the product catalog can be a little cumbersome, but if you know what you're doing, it's very learnable. And so that class is looking at how to really leverage the customer service functionality of CRM, how to leverage marketing, how to leverage sales, and take advantage of the tools that you already have. And the next class, which is what we'll talk about the most today, is the customization and configuration class. And this focuses on all of the out-of-the-box opportunities for customizing Dynamics CRM and Dynamics 365. And depends how long you've been around the CRM world. Some of us use those terms interchangeably. I still do. Dynamics 365 is very recent, within the last year, the rebranding of it, and actually a specific version. So the very newest version of Microsoft Dynamics CRM is really Dynamics 365. But this course actually applies to Dynamics CRM 2016, both on-premise and online, and then forward. And there are many concepts in here that would apply to earlier versions as well. So you'll hear me use those terms, both terms, quite a bit. CRM, I think, still helps us focus and understand what part of Dynamics 365 we're talking about, because Dynamics 365 is so big. There's so many areas with operations and other pieces that we're really not covering this class. I'll kind of lean heavier on the CRM terminology, but wanted to highlight that we're talking about both there. So that class is specifically looking at out of the box. So that's geared towards someone who is not looking to write custom code, or at least wants to know what the system can do before you begin coding. So what are your automation opportunities before you start writing code? How could you manipulate the form without writing code? How can you structure your data well? How do you create visibility into that data for your users? Those kinds of things are what would be worked on in the customization and configuration class. Also a good fit for someone who's preparing to take their customization and configuration exam from Microsoft. But a good audience for that class. And then the third, which I know is probably most relevant to some people on this call, I know we have some developers. The third class is geared specifically for that developer audience. And so it's adding in that necessary knowledge to apply a developer skill set to customizing CRM. So if you need to get into things like JavaScript, how are you going to work within the tools that Microsoft has set up for us to use with Microsoft Dynamics? How are you going to play by the rules and use custom code and do it in such a way that it's supported? Those are the 3 classes that we offer, and they do come in multiple formats too. These are available virtually. So if you really wanted to start, let's say you wanted to start today, you could go on to the Opsgility website and begin watching. I know it's at least the first 2 classes and potentially even the third, watching those as recorded lectures and working on the hands-on labs at your own pace. Is that something that you wanted to do when there wasn't a class being offered live? And then, of course, you can also attend those classes in person or virtually. And you can find more information about that on the website, and also reach out to Opsgility directly if you want more information about either hosting that class or bringing it in for your team, or joining maybe an existing class. And something that I didn't mention earlier, but I wanted to circle back to, is I'm happy to take questions as we go. So you can type questions, or you can also raise your hand, and we can unmute you and have you ask your question right on the line. I don't mind. It wouldn't be considered an interruption to me. If you have a question in the moment, I would love to get it answered. And likely, if you have a question, other people listening have a question as well. So please feel free to dive in and get your questions answered today and take advantage of the live format. All right, so now what I want to do is take a preview of the class. Now it's a 3-day course for customizing, configuring CRM. And then we're also going to touch on just briefly that getting started class. So clearly we're not going to be able to get into all the learning that we'd be able to do in 3 days. But I want to highlight some of the skills that I think every organization needs someone internally who knows how to use these skills. And these are all things that are covered in this course. So first we're going to look at the customization configuration class. And then we'll take a couple things out of the getting started class as well. So the first is connections. This is something that's really, really easy to use, and I think is really an underutilized feature of Dynamics CRM. If you think about it, the whole point of our CRM is, we've got this data, and in theory, we're collecting data, and we need a place to put the data when we collect it. But really the point is that we leverage that data so our users can actually use it, and it helps them make more informed decisions. And connections are something that's incredibly easy to set up. And what I really, really like about connections is that it frees us up to do things that are not maybe set in stone parts of our business relationships. So if you want to relate two things that are not similar together, you can do that, or things you wouldn't usually relate. It's nice for also tracking historical context. So for example, if you're tracking contacts in your system, and you want to look at where someone has been over the years, if you want to know that the person you're calling on to make a sales call next week actually is the old boss of one of your favorite current customers, you actually already have some kind of relationship with them. You may even see that, oh, that's right, they work together at such and such company, and that's a customer of ours too, and see that web of connections. The connections are very easy to set up, and they can be configured to make it even easier for users to use. But it's just a simple way of connecting any two records together and giving you a little bit more context. And so you can create this spider web of context that works really well within the system and helps users see how all of these disparate records are all related and link easily from one record to another. Another that every organization that has CRM is using, but I think most I find are underutilizing, is views. So you're not really using CRM without views. It's not possible, but there's so much more that you can do in simple customizations that make views so much easier for your users to use. So making it easier for them to locate records, making it easier for them to use tools like the advanced find to do very specific searches and pull lists together, and even do quick searches on different things. So it's something that we cover in the class, is how to really structure the views for your users so that they're able to actually see the data that you're putting in your CRM. Once again, we don't want to just send all this data into a black box and not know what's in there. We really want to make it accessible and surfaceable for our users. And views are a great way to do that. So something that we cover is how to best set those up, both in a personal view standpoint, what opportunities do your users have for themselves, and then what can you set up well for them from a more administrative standpoint to make their life even easier. So another tool that is really, really cool, so this is something if you're on an older version of CRM you might not have seen, I believe it was originally released in CRM 2015, and this is called the global search. What's really, really nice is this lets us look across multiple records and multiple record types to search for something. So if you know the name of a person or maybe part of the name of a customer organization, you can search across multiple record types to pull that up. This is much more friendly for users who are accustomed to Google, accustomed to Bing, accustomed to not needing to search so specifically. Sometimes what keeps users from using views, like we talked about in the last slide, is just they don't know where to start. Maybe they don't quite have that CRM vocabulary down yet. They don't know when they want a contact and when they want an account and when they want a lead. And what's really nice here is that global search gives them the ability to put in a word or even part of a word and pull up where that would fit across multiple records. So, you know, if you search for Adam, you might find both accounts that have Adam in the name of the account, people named Adam, whether that's their first, middle, or last name. If you're tracking that kind of information, leads, maybe even activities for an Adam or other things. And this is all entirely configurable. And so there's a huge missed opportunity here for a lot of organizations because they get to really tailor what it is their users should be looking for and how this search should be set up, and even what these individual little tiles should say when they pop up. And so it's a wonderful thing to be able to configure this so that when your users are searching, you're not bearing them with maybe records that aren't relevant to them, but you're making sure that they're focused on searching for the right thing. Another thing that we cover actually in both the customization class and the getting started class is charts. And charts are just some nice functionality right out of the box to let users see in an interactive way what's going on with their data. And so charts are very responsive. So here, as you can see, we're looking at open opportunities. And so this chart is only of the open opportunities that we're looking at right now. And so by just creating a handful of charts, maybe 1, 2, or 3, there's a lot your users can do to apply those and even make their own. And then we're getting some really new, exciting opportunities to have more interplay between Microsoft's Power BI tool and CRM. But this is really simple just for a user to set up, and they don't even leave CRM to do it. Once they have these charts, we can put these on specific record forms if we want, so we can put them right on dashboards, which we're about to talk about, or put them out in areas where we're looking at views like this, like we're looking at opportunities or leads. So just knowing your way around a simple customizing tool like this can really help make your data shine and make it a little easier for users to relate to. Most people, I think, don't look at lines of data as being that helpful. Pictures just speak louder than words, and charts are a great way to help with that. The dashboards are very, very exciting and easy. I think there's something that anybody can learn to do. I make sure in any organization that I'm working with that I am setting up dashboards and I'm teaching multiple people how to make dashboards. And something we'll cover is not just how to set up dashboards well, but also how to teach our users how to share those dashboards with others. And so a common scenario is that a small group within a department, maybe they all look at the same types of things. They may have kind of these communal dashboards or things that grow over time. What's also really nice about the way that Microsoft has grown the platform is that in most cases, we can develop something in one area and then see it across multiple tools. What I mean by that is we're looking, for example, here at the same, we can look at these same charts both in the web interface and then on a mobile app. So we'll also talk about how to build things in such a way that when you design them for your desktop users, if you choose to go mobile, you've already created those same dashboards, things move over really easily, and without going out and building mobile just from scratch, you have what you need. And we'll also look at the Interactive Service Hub dashboards because they are a little bit different. That's a new and exciting tool from Microsoft, specifically geared towards the customer service type of user. It's very simplified. It's something they use on their desktop, but it's geared, it really feels much more like an app. So it takes out a lot of the noise, a lot of the clutter, it makes it really simple. We talk about those kinds of dashboards as well. Before I go on, any questions? I can keep moving. You're welcome to jump in if you have any. Just wanted to take a pause for a moment. Sure I wasn't talking over anybody. Okay, hearing no questions, we'll keep going. So another big opportunity that we have is just understanding how entities and fields and records all come together. And this is where I found so many companies find immense value. It's actually really kind of easy and obvious, but so much value comes in just having a field for what you need it for. The very first CRM that I ever worked in, we weren't allowed to customize it at all. It was actually built for an entirely different industry than we were in, and we weren't allowed to customize it. And so I had to say things in training like, when they say this, what we mean is this, you know, it's entirely different. So I couldn't relabel things. I couldn't make fields. We had to kind of hack it, so to speak, to work for us. And the beauty of Dynamics is it's actually very easy to go in and add these fields, add entities, relate things together, and really show off your data in the way that you need it. And so that's something that we talk about, is how to set up those entities, how to create more fields. You have a wealth of field types to pick from. And this is especially important if you've come from an earlier version of Dynamics where you didn't have as many field types to work with. We have new types of fields like calculated and roll-up fields that really get a lot done. We used to absolutely need code for in earlier versions that we don't anymore. So it's very exciting. So that's something that we cover as well. And this is something that my students and I were just circling back on last night, and that's relationship types. We were going over actually this slide and the homework to do with this slide at about 8:30 last night. Relationships are very, very helpful to CRM because we have data, but the point of our data is that's related to other data. It tells a story. And if our data is just standalone, it doesn't tell much of a story. We need it to be related together. And so that's something else we talk about in the class, is how to set up your data appropriately. And so you can actually see all these relationships come together, and your users have the related data where they would expect it to be. And so it appears really nicely when you're setting up new entities and new fields, have this understanding of relationship types and how to use them in CRM. If you come from any kind of a software background, you're probably familiar with, you know, one-to-many relationships and many-to-many relationships and that kind of thing. And so for you, we'd just be fleshing out how that works in Dynamics and how we get that done. Now, this is one that I think I probably have at least 6 surprise conversations a year, if not more. It happens on every project I'm on, but this is Cascade Rules are something that I routinely talk about in elevators and over lunch. And I get phone calls or people ask me about it on a panel, and I'll hear about a bug. I'll hear about some kind of an issue, and they won't say I'm having a Cascade Rules issue. They'll say, gosh, I'm having an issue with such and such. And usually pretty quickly we figure out it has to do with their Cascade Rules. So Cascade Rules are really powerful and wonderful when used well, and potentially disastrous when used poorly. And they're straightforward to configure when you know what you're doing, but it's really important that you know what you're doing. And unfortunately, what I found is that for a lot of organizations, they were set up or just left as the default when that company implemented CRM. They've never been touched. And it's not until something goes funny with the data that anybody even thinks to go look at Cascade Rules. I think it's so important that someone on every CRM project is thinking about Cascade Rules and looking at them. And so it's something that I really try to get through on all my consultants and anybody that I work with. But this part of the understanding of how CRM works, I think is really important and kind of missed out in the real world. So the way that a Cascade Rule works in a best scenario, let's think about if sales reps own an account. So if I own an account and I have contacts that are associated to that account, and I have tasks, and I have emails, and I have all of these different types of records, and I leave the company, what happens to those when I'm gone? Well, if we leave Cascade Rules in their default behavior, when you reassign that account to the sales rep taking over from me, they'll naturally inherit all of my records, which is pretty cool, right? And there are some scenarios in some companies where that is very valuable. It prevents orphan records. It really helps decide what happens to all of these child records. How do they follow along behind? Where we really get into trouble is where, for example, the salesperson should own the account, but many people are allowed to own tasks. So maybe not all the tasks are just assigned to the owner of the account, but maybe you've got a whole team or multiple teams of people who might be working on stuff for the same account. If that changes owners, you don't just want to change all of the child records to the same owner too, because now you've just taken stuff from maybe 15 employees that are all working on projects for that account. All of their stuff feels like it went missing. You know, all of a sudden there's phone call records they can't find, there's tasks they can't find, and they're all magically assigned to this new employee who's very overwhelmed because suddenly they have all of this work assigned to them in CRM and they just started today. Huge problem. And so Cascade Rules are something really important, easy enough to learn, but really important to remember. And I think kind of missed when people get onboarded into the CRM world. That's just part of a lot of us getting here on accident. A lot of us don't have the benefit of formal training in CRM. We learn through pain and suffering, and Cascade Rules are kind of one of those pain and suffering things a lot of people learn at the hands of. Something else that we look at in the class is how we're customizing the user interface. We have all these different form types to work with, and this has grown significantly. So if you were in a previous version of Dynamics CRM, maybe you only had one form type, or maybe you only had two, and now we have so many to work with that there's many different places you go to customize these form types. Some flow over naturally, and they just show up, and then some have some nuance to it. And so that's something that we look at in the class is how to customize form types and how to use the right form type for the job, because it's not always entirely obvious what you need where, especially if you've got that older context of CRM and you haven't used the newest tools. There may be something better for the problem you're trying to solve. Maybe you're just not familiar with it yet. So let's look at field types. Once again, another thing that if you're fairly new to the CRM world, or you're fairly new to the latest versions of CRM, this might not be as familiar to you, but very, very exciting nonetheless, because now we've got additional field types that aren't just static, but they'll dynamically update for us. So we can calculate data across multiple related records. We can get roll-up type calculations of, dates and dollar amounts and other things. So very, very exciting. And to some extent underutilized, because maybe an organization heavily coded for CRM 2011 and then hasn't looked at what opportunities they have in CRM 2016 or Dynamics 365. And so they don't realize that they have a lot of this just sitting there. And this is very, very, very learnable. It's aimed at that business user or system admin. So not something that you need a developer background to learn. But can save you an impressive amount of time by using the out-of-the-box features instead of coding for it. Something that we talk a little bit about is the development cycle and using solutions for that development cycle. So in not every CRM do we have multiple environments, but common practice is to have, development environment. Maybe you have a testing environment and then a user acceptance environment. You might have some kind of a staging or a regression environment and then production. And something that's really important is looking at how to properly use solutions. And that's something we find is an underdeveloped skill set in a lot of people in the CRM world, is how to use those solutions well. They can really save you a lot of time, make a lot of things possible, and make it possible to have a cleaner development cycle where you're not just running around and building new things in production. Definitely happens. There are organizations that do that. I've been at those organizations before. So I'm not trying to shame anybody, but there is a better way to do it and a little bit safer way to do it. And that's something that we look at, is what our tools are for solutions and how we can utilize that better. So let's look at the very newest features that came out in CRM 2016 for looking at solutions at a much more granular level. So prior to 2016, we had a way that we needed to do solutions, but it really moved massive amounts of configuration at the same time. And now we have tools that really let us go in with a surgical precision. For the first time, we can go in and move literally one field if we need to. If there's a bug fix, or there's, you know, one chart that didn't make the cut, or something else that went wrong, we can move really tiny things. And it's very, very exciting. So once again, even if you're using solutions, but maybe you're on an older version of CRM, important to catch up your skill set and know how to use the newest features of solutions so that you're really getting the most out of the tool and not overcomplicating things. Because if you've worked with solutions before, as you know, it can get really complicated if you're moving more than you need to. That can really create some problems. Another thing that we're going to look at is auditing, both what it does well and what it doesn't. This is not, the out-of-the-box tools for auditing are not the end-all be-all, but we do want to know what they do. What do we have the ability to see from an auditing, and how do we set it up? Because it's not like something you can just turn on with one click. You know, there's a little bit more nuance to it. You also want to be sure that you are auditing at the right level, because if you just audit purely everything, for one thing, you're going to have more data than you know what to do with, and it's going to bring performance way, 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 way down. So that's a consideration that we look at as well. We're also taking into account duplicate detection considerations, and auditing and duplicate detection. These are both things that if you're preparing for Microsoft exam, you're going to need a little more understanding on. So we're looking at both what duplicate detection does now and what it doesn't. Duplicate detection is fairly similar to what it was in previous versions of CRM, but actually the way it interacts with the user now is less aggressive. So we look at that and how things changed in 2013 and what we do with them now. Another great feature that I think goes missed by a lot of organizations is the simple ability to merge two records. And this is something that, as an admin, I didn't really have to spend my time doing, but to make sure at every organization that I work with, there's someone who knows how to bring these records together. And that's really nice, because it's so common that we get, even with duplicate detection, we end up with maybe two contacts that are really the same person, or maybe two accounts that are really the same accounts. Maybe one is spelled wrong, or you know, one is abbreviated and one isn't. But we want to bring not only all of that data together, but all of the child records too. We have tasks, we have appointments, we have history on these two accounts. We want to bring it all under one roof. And so merging records is a really great way to go about that. And you have to pick from each record what it is you want to be on the surviving record, and it moves all of those activities over. So it's something that every organization should have. You know, usually I'd say at least a couple users, or at least one, who knows how to do this. This is a great thing for either your data person to know how to do, or maybe an administrative assistant who really cares about the data and the cleanliness of the data. It can be a good way to keep data under control so it doesn't get too messy. Something else that we look at in the data module of the course is bulk deletion. There's a lot of things that we actually do want to delete. We don't keep everything in our CRM forever. And one example, like up on the screen, is system jobs. So as we write automation and we have all this automation running, we're racking up all these transactional records called system jobs. And we don't need to keep those forever. We definitely don't want to. There's not a value to it, and a lot of implications to keeping stuff too long. So looking at bulk deletion rules and cleanup and where you might want to use that, just keep your data clean, whether it's deleting data after it's reached a certain kind of expiration point. Maybe certain data gets deleted when it's a year old. other data gets deleted every night or maybe on Sundays. Bulk deletion rules are a great tool for that. One of my personal favorites, this is actually something I'm presenting on coming up here in a couple weeks, or I'll be commenting on in my presentation, is the import wizard. Incredibly powerful. At multiple organizations I've worked at, we've decided that for sake of budget, we were not going to write live integrations with custom code, but instead, because we had the data that we needed in another system, we were just going to bring it in through Excel. And this is a really powerful tool, actually pretty straightforward, and a great way to take an Excel spreadsheet full of data and bring it into the right fields in Dynamics. And whether it's updating records or creating brand new records, super powerful, something every organization should know how to do. It saves you so much time. I'm a little lazy because I'm so confident in the import tool. My rule is I won't do more than 5 of something by hand. So if I have to go in and create a bunch of records, I really don't ever create more than 5 of anything before I just pull out the importing tool and I throw things in Excel and I import them that way. It's so easy to use, can save so much time. Really, when you look at what a lot of people do by hand in Dynamics and what they could have done with this simple import wizard, it's staggering. The amount of hours that get wasted on data input just can really free that up. And this one is just more fun than anything, but something, especially in user adoption, we want users to know that it's their CRM. And so something that's gotten better and better with each version is our ability to customize the look and feel of it without writing code. So whether it's just simply using your company colors or even throwing in a custom logo or something else. We talk about themes and how to set up CRM. And so you have, whether it's your different environments, maybe you're working with a test environment and a user test environment and a production environment, having those have different colors, when they're in, or maybe just having the same theme across the board. So it shows united front and it's part of the branding. Helps remind your users that they're in your organization's CRM and not just in a generic Microsoft product, and just help foster that sense of community and identity with the tool. So very easy to set up and something that we walk through both in the lecture and with a hands-on lab in the course. Take a brief pause just to check and see if there's any questions. If not, we're going to move on. Okay, just a reminder, you can either ask a question by raising your hand or submitting a question through the GoToMeeting pane as well, whatever works best for you. Something else that we look at is the all-important security. We have security we can do at a variety of levels in CRM, and it's really important to get that right. And it's really important for there to be people in your organization who understand what the security model in CRM looks like. Because as you're having business conversations about how CRM should work, or maybe even how a process should work, it's important to know what CRM can do for you on a security front. Some people find that once they have a better understanding of CRM security, their initial security model was maybe overcomplicated, and it was much easier for them to handle it. Or maybe they find that there was really a lot more they could do to get to a level of granularity and control in their security that they needed, whether it's to appease regulators or to fit company culture, just protect sensitive data. So we look at it both at an entity level, a record level, and then even down to a field level. How do we control data at the right level and make those decisions? And where do you actually go in and make those changes? Then we also looked at the kind of the complexity of security. There's a lot of terms that get reused. I've been kind of frustrated in that this term access, I feel, is being overused in the product. And so things like this get confusing really fast when you're learning the tool. And so all of a sudden access levels, access rights, access teams, they all kind of feel like the same thing, even though they're not. And so we'll also take some time to look at what each of these mean, but then kind of clarifying things so you're not lost in the kind of naming and branding shuffle, especially around security. So security is just so important. We also look at security hierarchy, which is a fairly new set of features, and that allows us to either do hierarchy by manager, so you can really build out your org chart and allow people to see down or up a certain number of levels. They also have it by position as well. So if you are accustomed to older versions of CRM where you didn't have this, it may be possible to redesign your security model now and get that more granular control or granular visibility that you need throughout the organization, instead of having to do it in much bigger slices. We used to have to do much bigger slices or really complicate things to get security as granular as we needed, and we don't need to do that anymore because of hierarchy security. So we'll talk about that as well. Another that I just love is business rules. And so this is actually a screenshot of this. So the user interface has shifted slightly. So this is one version ago, but I like this better. It kind of communicates the point to the slide. So I kept it for now. We'll talk about both kinds, but business rules replace a lot of JavaScript, really a significant amount of JavaScript in CRM, because it allows us to interact with the user interface without writing code. So as you can see here, it's really simple. It's written for maybe like a business analyst or system admin, not a developer, to go in and write if-then statements and then cause things to happen, like fields being required or not required, things being visible, fields being locked, setting the value of a field based on the answer in another field. So really simple things that we can do, really, really fun, and just save so much time. Very, very easy to get these going, especially when you contrast them to what we used to have to do in code to get the same kinds of results. So very accessible and important for anybody who's coming from an older version, who's assessing what codes they're going to replace. Important to know what the tool can do now so that you're not over-coding CRM. You can simplify. If you still want to code, at least you can spend your coding efforts on things that are really worth it and you can't do out of the box. We don't want those code dollars to be wasted. We're going to use those resources on things that are really valuable. And there's so much more of the tools that CRM can do for us now. I want to make sure we leverage things. Another tool that is great, that I kind of consider to be part of that automation space, is business process flows. And so this works both on the user interface, and we also see it in the mobile app. And this guides the user through what they need to do next. And I can even lock it down in such a way that I can say, you know, maybe until I have a contact in the account, you're not allowed to really continue on through this process. I can not only stage gate the process for the user, but I can tell them explicitly what it is I need next. Whether it's just a simple checkbox, I want them to check saying they did something, or data I need to get from them. This is a really nice way to hold the user's hand and get the data that you need at the right steps in the process. You can also do some really nice branching logic here. And so your process may look different. Maybe your sales process is different for sales over $100,000 versus under $100,000. We have the ability here to fork the process. And so it can split and go different directions depending on what data is entered. It's a really nice way to hold their hands. User adoption is so important, and especially with salespeople, that tends to be a kind of hard group to really get good adoption in. And tools like this can help guide them, make it really clear and obvious what their next step is. And so when the phone rings 15 seconds later, at least they can find their way back. I don't have to have them understand 100 things about the lead form. I just need them to know to look to the top of the page, and I'm going to tell them what I need from them, what their next decision is, what their next piece of data that I'm looking for is, and we can take it one step at a time. So these are a great thing to learn to configure. A lot of value here, especially even beyond sales, definitely not limited to sales, but that's a really common scenario we see, and it works really well. So I attribute workflows as having derailed my career because I had entirely different plans for grad school and what I was going to do with my life. before I accidentally landed in CRM, and workflows were why I stayed. Workflows are so exciting. There's so much power that you can do. So many things that work so well. And I haven't kept a running count, but I have several projects we've looked back on and said, okay, based on what it used to take a user to do this, how many hours have we saved a year? And in multiple cases, it's been thousands of hours. In some cases, I think we had one where we had functionally added, I think, 3 employees, or the equivalent of 3 employees to a team of only 10 people, because there was so much more they could do, because workflows were doing the grunt work for them. And so those employees were freed up to do very valuable things with their time instead of doing kind of more of the pussy things. And they were also doing the right work at the right time, because the workflow was watching for that really strict business process and just serving up work, saying what to do next, what was urgent, handling things so that important client issues didn't fall through the cracks, things were served in a timely fashion. Workflows are just so exciting. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about them. So we're going to be looking at workflows in this class, what you can do in a workflow, and then also looking at this newer concept of real-time versus background workflows. Once again, if you're coming from an earlier version of CRM where you only had background or asynchronous workflows, you wouldn't necessarily have this leverage that you have now. Now we have the ability to control when the workflow runs, and even when in the transaction on the server it happens. So does the workflow fire before the record is deleted from the system, or you know, after a certain field change, or even who the workflow runs as? So a lot of value here and a lot of exciting things that we can do now. It just keeps getting better and better. And then something else that we touch on is the configure once, deploy everywhere. We touched back through mobile. The nice thing is that we don't have to have a full section of the course specifically on how to do mobile. It's actually only one module, because what we're really looking at is how to leverage what you've already built in your CRM and bring it mobile. And so it's more enabling things for mobile than anything, because we really don't have to redesign, which is really, really nice. So just a couple notes, things on the Getting Started class that I think also would benefit any organization to know how to do. And I'm going to work through these really fast, but one new piece that we have is word templates, and this replaced mail merge. So much easier for a user to use, and we can generate really beautiful, well-formatted, dynamic word templates right out of CRM. And the same thing goes for Excel. And so this is so exciting. I used to take CRM data and I teach users to dump the CRM data out, and then I'd have them put it in an Excel document, and I would run a macro for them so that it would do this kind of stuff. And now I can have a salesperson hit one button and it spits them out this beautiful report that they know exactly what to do with, and it's just gorgeous. Love these templates. So many exciting things that we can do. It really put workable data in the hands of users. It's very, very empowering. We also look at the sales process out of the box. The CRM has the ability to take us from a lead all the way through an invoice. And not everyone uses it that way, and that is optional. But we look at the whole sales process end to end. If you wanted to convert things into quotes, you know, convert opportunities into quotes, and those quotes into orders, and those orders into invoices, how would you do that? If you wanted to use the product catalog, how would you do that? And I'm actually running a little bit over on time, so we're not going to go too far into the product catalog, but there is a lot that you can do. It really helps in managing pricing and having special price lists. You can handle discounting this way, and it's so much cleaner for your data and more efficient to have a centralized price list instead of having your salespeople do it from memory. There's really a lot of benefits to the product catalog. So it's something that we teach you how to set up out of the box. You can use that part of the tool that you already have and just might not be using. Also something that if you're looking to take your Microsoft sales exam, you'll have to know how to do. And then we're also looking at goals. And how those work, the setting up goals both for sales, marketing, and service, and what that looks like, what the calculations, what our opportunities are to use goals and have managers of goals and kind of nest goals within each other. There's obvious applications to sales goals, whether it's meeting quotas or getting bonuses, but then there's also other areas that we can use it well. I apologize for the heightened speed, just trying to wrap up so everyone can get back to their day here. And then we also look in the customer service area at queues and the nuances of queues. A lot of great things that we can do in funneling any kind of customer support cases or some other kind of support cases through a specific process. So they're in the right queues for our users to address those issues. And also we can even control with entitlements and other things. For example, if we're saying that our customers, maybe they're only allowed 10 phone calls a month under the contract that we have, and everything else has to come in over email. We even have the ability to, within the customer service space, look at specifically, are we meeting our service level agreements? Are we, responding within 24 hours? Are we making sure we're not spending more time on the phone than customers are paying for? How do we keep users very much in the loop, and so they're able to follow our internal business processes when we're doing customer service? How do we set up CRM in such a way that they are empowered to work within that framework and make life a lot simpler for them? That is a quick overview of two of those three classes, and just kind of a highlight of some of those skills that are really important for every organization to have. There's a lot more to those classes than what we're able to cover today, and then of course we actually get into how to do each of those things that we talked about and more. But if you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you about it, and or any questions about CRM in general. Otherwise, that's all that I have for today.